How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Is somebody trying to get into the timeline?
No, I think she should.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. I don't know. You go outside and I'll let you back.
Yeah. What did you promise? All right, we're good.
Hey, it looks like we have our online attendees and our phone call attendees, so we're ready whenever you are. Okay, well, good morning. It's exciting to see so many of you here because obviously you care about your national application for Proficiencies. So that is exciting news. And I'm Diana Lushin, for those of you who may not know me. And we're going to try and work through some tips and tricks and answer some questions that you have to try and make your application as competitive as possible for national. So that is our goal. So we're going to start out with some general things. I have some things that are specific to those of you who are entrepreneurial, those of you who are specific to placement, and then we're going to get up and move around a little bit, and I have some pictures for us to look at and analyze, and then we'll kind of come back to some financial things, and then time for questions, and then you're welcome to work or open up your application and we can review anything that you have specific questions on. At any time throughout this, don't hesitate, or do feel free to stop me, ask questions, etc. So we're here to make sure that you have the best possible application when we head into national soon. So is it better without the front row lights, or better, is it okay now? Who are in here when they dim it, doesn't matter, fine. Okay, alrighty. So that's what we're going to try and accomplish here. So as I say, members, kind of an opening ceremony. Why are we here? Obviously because you're a state winner, so again, congratulations on that. We're hoping that you will be able to represent Illinois to the very best of your ability. And by coming here today, that is one step in the right direction. And of course, wouldn't it be nice to be a National Proficiency Award winner? That is exciting, to be the best in the entire country. So hopefully that is your goal, and we'll help you to reach that. So if you can become a national finalist, there are some things there for you. $500 just for being a national finalist. So think of that as your paycheck for all the work you're going to do on the application. The big old plaque from national is a chance to compete at national conventions, and interview experience at a national level will help you forever as you're seeking jobs and internships and all those kinds of things. students. It is a great experience, and it will make you better in all the things that you want to pursue later on. So a year ago, I had a young lady, some of you may know her, named Sarah Hummel. She sat right back here at the station, and I drug her along with me at this, and she was fortunate enough to become another one of our national proficiency winners. And since she kind of mastered this process, I didn't make her come along today, but I did get a little, kind of from the student perspective, from her to you guys today. So let's start following here. Let's see what Sarah has to say. Well, sometimes when you have an 8.9, you need to refresh the entire page. Oh, no. Here she is.
Hello, my name is Sarah Hummel, and I was the National Proficiency winner last year in small animal production and care. I just wanted to say congratulations to all of you for making it this far, and I'm glad we can represent Illinois well, and I hope to see you all at state convention. So a few little tips that I have for you all that I learned from going through this process last year is make sure you pay attention at this workshop, because I learned a lot of things that I probably would not have done in my application without learning it and being able to do so. So with that being said, also make sure you keep your application very detailed and very detail specific in all of it, because that truly does matter in the long run. And then also make sure you take your time during this application, because after it's all done, you'll be very thankful that you did put all the time and effort into it. So good luck to you all, and I wish you the best.
Okay. And if there's one...
Hello, my name is Sarah Hummel.
All right, if there is one thing that I would echo, she hit the nail on the head, would be detailed and be specific. Those are probably the single most valuable keys to doing well with that. So let's start out. I'm guessing that all of you have begun the application process. And hopefully you have chosen the correct application to begin typing into. So if you haven't, this is off of the national website page, and we have more detail in later slides of how to get there if you need help. But different SAE areas use different rubrics and different applications. So it's important that we be in the right one. Now, do we have any agri-science people here today? In person. Okay. How many of you are entrepreneurial? Okay. Placement? Do you know what it, okay, and then combined. Combined would be those categories where, say, fruit production, where entrepreneurial students compete against placement students. And so then, in that case, you would use the combined application. So if you have any questions, and this is just a screenshot of it, but if you have any questions, you can click on the little link down here, and it will list the SAE areas that is the application for in this year. So you might, before you get too far, if you were kind of not sure about that, double check and make sure you're in the right application, because how unfortunate would that be to have to redo that and move it into a different app? Yes, ma'am.
Should we start through educate.org, or is it okay to start our application through AEP?
Either one. Either one.
Yeah,
if you go to ffa.org and you log into Application Center, it's going to take you straight to AEP.
Yeah. Okay.
It's one and the same. It's all.
Okay. I want to make sure. Yep.
Yep. Good question. All right. So we got the right application now, so let's talk about using that, a little bit of housekeeping here. When you're moving between the different boxes and different entries, use the tab button because it triggers that little blue icon that I screenshotted down there. And it's only on for a second or so, but that is the thing that tells you, hey, it's saving. So you kind of want to watch for that. And if you just move with your mouse and click in the boxes, you don't always get that triggered. So it's the tab key that triggers that saving mechanism. So make sure that you use the tab button to move from box to box because it's also the save trigger. Definitely want to save all of our work. Another thing that you will see as you move through the application are these little green question marks. And the little green question marks provide handy little tips and hints and things like that. Use them. You know, it's real easy to look over them and go, oh, yeah, okay, fine, I'm moving along. But sometimes what they tell you is like, oh, I never thought of that. What a great idea. So why not use the advice that all of your competitors have available to them as well and make that information part of at least in the back of your mind. A couple other things is the numeric entries as far as dollars and things like that. There'll be no decimals, whole dollars only, and no negative numbers. Now that's not to say that in a text box type of entry, you can't have them like my inputs went down, or my inputs were, you know, negative $4.12 an acre or something like that. You can do that, but those money-oriented number things that transfer around in the application, don't put any negatives on there. It's cranky. Okay. Another thing is, you mentioned the AEP and the FFA.org, and they're kind of all synced together. But on the direction page of a National Proficiency application, you get this number 14, and it says this application is locked to your AEP records, and you can click on that little blue link to unlock that application, which means it's going to extract information from your AEP record book. Now, those of you who might have just gone through maybe your state degree, that is also an option there. So a couple things about that is, you know, you got to decide what to do. If all of your records are not in AEP, like maybe you're in EC records or half EC records, half AEP or some such thing like that, you do not want to unlock this. You're going to want to manually put in your information so that you can pull from your different sources of your record keeping for that. Now, the other thing that we want to do is you want to make your decision about that before you really get into the application, because if you unlock it and then lock it again and then unlock it, your stuff goes away. Like it doesn't keep it in the application. It's like, oh, they wanted to get rid of that. Okay. And so away it goes. And so anything that you manually typed in or whatever is probably not there. So be very careful about that. Now, I will tell you that even though my students now are all AEP, I click the unlock button. Because then we can control exactly what we're putting in there. It's nice to look at how it pulls things through. So if you want to do that first and kind of look at how the money flows, maybe print that out or whatever, and then unlock it, but you've got that as a reference. But don't go back and forth because you won't be happy with what it does for you. Okay, now let's talk specifics about your SAE. So you're competing in a specific award area. So it's very, very, very important that you stay on the topic of the SAE you are competing in. So if you are, well, this tractor up here, the year that I did summer judging at National, there was a student who had beautifully restored this tractor, had a wonderful little community service aspect to it. There was some placement part of it. It seemed like there was entrepreneurial part of it. By the time we got done reading the application, we weren't exactly sure really which one it was. So do not muddy the waters Don't show pictures of different stuff that is not pertaining to exactly the SAE that you are competing in, and certainly don't make the judges guess about what's going on in your SAE. So spell it out clearly. They don't know, and the application that you're working so hard on right now is the only thing that they have to base their decisions and their scores and things on. They don't get to meet you. They don't get to look at your record book. They don't get to do any of that. It all has to be clear in the application. So don't make them guess about any part of that. And we probably will come back to this, stay on the topic of the SAE thing when we talk a little bit about picture, because that actually has caused some people to not be natural finalists, because this is that one little thing. So there are some gray areas sometimes. Some of your categories, your SAE areas, are more prone, I guess, to this than others. And let's face it, beef production is beef production. But when you get into sales or agricultural services or things like that, sometimes it's a little more gray. And so we really need to clear that up for the judges. Make sure that as you're doing that the agricultural relevance of the project is clear. If they're like, well, this is a great project, but I don't see how it's agricultural, we're going to be in trouble. Okay, at the national level, we're going to be in trouble. So make sure that it's very agricultural, and we're highlighting the stuff relating to the SAE area you're competing in, which is just what I said there. So make sure your application aligns with what you're applying, especially those who have multiple SAEs. And sometimes it interrelates. You know, if you have a forage project and you have a dairy project of the animals who eat the forage, yes, they're very interrelated, but you're competing in one or the other. So you need to show us either your dairy or your forage, or not intermix the two. And that would be diversified ag. So different area. All right. Any questions so far? As you get into your application, there is going to be a spot, several spots, where you're going to indicate when you did certain things. Okay? This is important too. Do not, absolutely do not ever include anything about 2019 in your application. Do not put the numeral 2019 in succession in your application, because it is going to be problematic in judging. So if you reference 2019 in your application, that is a problem for national judging, right? So this ends on December 31st of 2018, and make sure that you know 2019 sneaks in there. And I'm not sure, because I haven't had my students do a lot of the ones locked to the AET, but that would be somewhere I would be super careful, is if you're locked to AET, is it trying to bring 2019 things in there? So that's a spot to be extra cautious about. Never, ever in your efficiencies, when you're talking about your accomplishments and how you grew your project from the wee little, freshman project to your clearly superior project that one state was now, never ever use 2019. All as of 2018. On the flip side of that, many of you probably started doing things with your project when you joined 4-H and were a youngster. There are rules about how many years of applications and how old you can be when you have a span in your project. So I would recommend not to reference your pre-application time by year. Don't say back in, what year were you born? What year were you born? 2001. All right, so don't say back in 2005, blah, 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 blah. Just say when I was younger, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because then they don't have any concrete year where they go, oh, this doesn't fit in the time period of this application. So on both ends, be careful. When it's the younger years, and 2019 is for sure no. So that's kind of how you can get around those earlier years. Does that make sense? The year I was judging, anything that had that current year in it was bronze or participant food. I mean, it just is. There's no way that you would be considered for anything higher than that. So, okay. So, we need to aim for the target. And the target is going to be the rubric, because that's how they're going to score you. The rubric is no secret. We can find it on the website, and I'll show you where that is, but we want to use the rubric to guide you along. Now, just like the applications, there are 4 rubrics. So again, if you're competing in a mixed area, then you need to use the rubric for the combination, mix, whatever the terminology they are using for that. If you're placement only, then you need the placement rubric, et cetera, et cetera. So make sure that you are looking through the rubric, and when you look through that, try and look through it as eyes as if you were judging. Like, okay, here's the student's application. They gave it to me to score. Here's the rubric, and go through, and you're like, oh, I'm going to be hard-pressed to get very many points in this category because the rubric asks for this, and nowhere in my application did I tell them any of that. So use that mindset when you are evaluating your application as compared to the rubric. All right. Did I mention to use the rubric? Yes. Okay. So you're like, okay, she said to use the rubric. I better look at this thing. So when you go to FFA.org, and actually, let me, yeah, I got it back here. We'll go at the beginning a little bit later. But hello. When you're looking for the rubric, FFA.org, and then in the, I don't know, like Explore FFA or something like that, and then you pick Proficiency, and then Proficiency Resources, and then the judging rubric, and they're all here in this Dropbox thing. And so you can download them, you can print them, you can save them to your computer, but use them, okay? And then National is very transparent about putting everything out there available to you so you know what to expect. Even the summer judging protocol, I noticed, is on there. Like there's this table, and at the table will be people from each of the regions. And then after the application makes it from that table, it goes to this, and this is how this judging group is comprised, and so on and so forth. So all that stuff is there, and so it's just go find it and look at it. And I see several of you are doing that right now. So that's good. So make sure we're using the rubric. Okay, so you're going to want to refer back to the rubric again and again as you work forward in your application. Now, speaking of the application, you're going to need to do a performance review. And in the performance review, please make sure that you use all the space that they provide. This is your chance to tell your story. Just remember, no record books, no student interviews unless you're a finalist, right? So use all the space that they give you. Well, you don't want to have a lot of miscellaneous fluff. You need to use all the space that they give you to tell your story, because that's how the judges can evaluate your program. Now, some little tips that you can use. In your performance review, you can refer to maybe photos or the personal page or other things that you have in your application. So, for example, and I know this is a little small, if you notice here, it's talking about this student is preparing orders. I utilize computers, iPads, and other technology to assist in my efficiency, parentheses. See photos, page 21 and 22. So now he was adding credibility and a visual to his technology that he used with his project. So this was a student in ag sales. So refer to photos. Refer, if it was item 3 on your personal page, whatever it is that you have in another place, you can just refer to that as kind of further documentation. So that works well. Now another thing that you can do, and it asks about the problems that your biggest problem and the solution to that. So rather than making them wade clear through a long paragraph about that, make it easier for the judges to find, here was my challenge. So you have limited things that you can do, but you can change to all capital letters. So you can't change font, but you can capitalize. So challenge, here's my challenge, here were my solutions, boom. So it helps the judges find their way through there when they're evaluating what was the issue here and what management did you take to solve that. So this is a good thing for you to do, to toot your own horn on maybe some things that you had to deal with and you worked through as part of your SAE over the year. Okay, again, as you're doing your writing then, so in performance review, try and be a little bit creative. Right? I would venture to say that sometimes nearly 50% of applications will start out, well, ever since I was little, blah, 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 blah. So that's overused. So try and come up with something that is a little more unique, right? This particular student, which was a student of mine, and he was competing that year in diversified ag. From an early age, I had an interest in farming. Each year, I eagerly looked forward to Christmas when I got more components, like growing toy farm set. I farmed on the set every day. All right, you get that warm, fuzzy, like, oh, yeah, Nick had wanted to be a farmer since he was a wee little thing. And then he went on to say his parents didn't farm, but they were involved, and oh, golly sakes, here I go, and this is how I got started, and away they went. So, in fact, national, when this student won, I don't remember if it was when they won Proficiency or Star, but those first few sentences about the farm set thing was the national press releases that they used when they sent out that student's press releases. So if you can be unique and capture their attention and things like that, do so, because those judges, in summer judging, they're reading potentially 52 thick applications per proficiency area. I'm telling you, the only thing to look forward to besides a glorious application was snacks and meals. Like, I gained 5 to 7 pounds in national judging one summer. So if you can captivate their interest in your application by being unique, do that. Now, along with that, we want to be careful with spelling, grammar, tense. Don't start out past tense and end up in present tense and things like that. I'm sure you have a plethora of helpful teachers in your school who would be happy to read through and offer their suggestions on your application. Now, do you have to use all of their suggestions? Maybe the English teacher says, oh, well, you need to quote Shakespeare in here to get their attention. Well, clearly that's not going to work out so well for us. So you can thank them politely for that information. But meanwhile, they might have found 4 other spelling mistakes in there. So take the best information that you get from all of the people willing to help you and put together your application. It is your application. So you need to read through what's going to work for you and what's not. All right? The word that. When I encourage my students and when I read certain things, I always look at the word that. And I think, is that word even necessary? And a lot of times it's not. So I learned that I went to the fields and, well, no. I learned that when I went to the fields, I did this. And when you're using your space to your best benefit, you can get rid of words that are not necessary and put in something that's more meaningful that's going to score you points. Like that is not going to score you any points. And again, we can't hardly read it enough to make sure that we have all of our I's dotted and our T's crossed, and we have all of the grammar and spelling, and we told the story we want to. the way we want to. So proofread, proofread, proofread. Okay. Do we have any questions so far? Are there any questions from afar, Mindy?
Nope, they've been asking the 2019 questions, so I cleared up some of the 2019 questions they had online. And then I've also been online, we're taking them over to FFA.org and showing them how to open up the proficiency rubrics and those type of things.
So, all right, thank you very much. All right, let's get into a little more of the nitty-gritty here. So when you're doing learning outcomes, efficiencies, however it is on your particular application, again, watch the year. Now this is an older one I stole from a student here. This is a poultry student. So make sure that this ending year is going to be 2018, absolutely no 2019. Okay? So be careful, too, about your beginning year, because we talked about that in our earlier years. So you do have to kind of be careful of that. And then don't think that everything that's over here has to be glowing and wonderful and, you know, we know that's not always the case. I mean, gosh, the FFA Creed even talks about things being challenging sometimes. So this particular student chose to put their average hours per week, and look, it went down. And you may say, oh, that's not going to be a good idea. Well, maybe it is and maybe it's not. Let's look at what he said. Well, his hours reduced because he was more efficient and told about how he was. So things that may initially seem a negative could potentially be a positive, because you are more efficient, because you made some management change, et cetera, et cetera. So don't always think that everything has to show increases and increases and increases, but if it decreases, you know, talk about why. Notice, too, and this student maybe left a little bit on the table. This one is pretty cool. He could have had, you know, a few more characters, but look, in the perfect world, this, you know, we've got a whole other sentence that we could have put there. And, yeah, that was his poultry. So he was a finalist, but he did not win. I'm not saying it's because of that line. He just got out of what he said. Anyway, so watch your years. Be very specific. Don't be afraid to explain something that at first appears negative and turn it into positive. Mr. Hinchey.
Just to be sure, so if we have a student that logs their fall hours, to those.
And you mean the freshmen, they're in their first
fall. Are we supposed to include those or not?
Well, you will need to include them because now it goes back to their starting their membership in FFA and that sort of thing. So yes, yes. And I think that flows a little more seamlessly now than a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
That was a bear. It was a real struggle. So, but yeah, I think it's a little easier now. But yeah, those fall start things, good questions. They do need to be included. Okay, let's see here. Oh, right. And I kind of said something I shouldn't have a minute ago because I said the poultry student got out horse. He was a small entrepreneurial student, and that's a mixed area, so he was competing against students for placement in millions of birds and so on. But as a rule, size does not matter. So when we have had success with our students at Tri-Point at the national level, in all cases but one that I can think of, those students were either the smallest in terms of size and scope or one of the two smallest. So it is not about how many, you know, if you're in small animals, it's not about how many puppies you raise. It's not about how many acres you farm. It's about the management decisions that you have made to make your project as good as you possibly can. And it's changes you made, not your mom, not your dad, not your aunt, not your uncle. You have to convince those judges that it's your skin in the game if you're entrepreneurial, especially. All right? So don't go, oh, I'm in equine and I have 3 horses. No, that's never going to work. Oh, sure, it will. And we don't have to look very far from here, just across the town at the University of Illinois, where there is a young lady who was a national proficiency winner in flying, and I think she had a grand total of 3,000. So that's been a number of years ago now. But her attention to detail is incredible, and it paid off. So another thing on this slide, watch out for abbreviations. Again, you know your project so well that you know that APH is actual production history if you're a craft person, but the judges might not know that. Or it might be a regional thing. Like I always, my students don't want to put in JJC. Well, that's Joliet Junior College. Everyone in, northern Illinois kind of knows that, but people who are judged from Arkansas have no clue what that is. So at least once when you're going to use an abbreviation or acronym, spell out what it is. And yes, I know it takes up space in the application and we're trying to tell so much, but if they don't know what APH is, it means nothing to them. So make sure that you're careful about this whole abbreviation thing.
And when you think about it, let's say you're in ag education and you're talking about the schools that you go to. If they can't tell that's an elementary school or a high school or a community college because you've abbreviated, you haven't set yourself up for success. So that is really, really important. It sounds kind of trivial, but it's probably one of the most important things. If you use abbreviations that they can't figure out or understand, your application will quickly be dismissed.
Okay. Performance review. So this is a format that I was able to obtain a copy of that I like the format. The people from the state who use this format have been very successful. And so when they're talking about their performance review and they're looking at experiences that impact your future, again, it kind of is like that problem solution thing that we looked at before. Look, they said, all right, here's the experience, and here's the impact on my future. Instead of one big, long conglomeration of a paragraph that the judges have to wade through. Now, would you need to waste a line here? Maybe not. If it were my student, this would be capitalized, and we would move this up and maximize lower space a little bit more and capitalize this. But again, you see how just little things can make it more easily identifiable to the judges of what you're trying to say in a quick, straightforward manner. So that's another option for you. Same way, this question was 3 greatest accomplishments and findings in this award area. Well, this scenario, again, this was from a different state, but here's my accomplishment. This is what I did. Notice how it's nice and specific. Okay, it's not about $200,000. It's $219,568. And if it's 27 cents, you can even do it in 27 cents. This is not a numeric thing that you can't use cents, and so you just can't be too specific in something like this. All right, so here's what I accomplished. Here's kind of what fed into this accomplishment, and here is how it made me successful in my SAE. So that was kind of another little way of setting that up. We don't always use that with our students, at least at Tri-Point, but it's certainly an option, or it gets you thinking about how you could segregate the different components of the question so the judges can find what you're trying to tell them. So just food for thought, I guess. Okay? Now, when you get to your skills pages, how many of you have looked at your skills pages, have started putting skills in, that sort of thing? Okay. All right. So at the top of the page, you're going to list, I think it's 10 skills perhaps. Those are in your primary pathway. So if you are, what's your SAE area? Equine entrepreneurship. All right, your pathway is going to be animal systems. All right, so everything that you have in your primary pathway is going to be AS for animal systems, and then you're going to pick one that is what you have done, and then you're going to tell us how you did it and what accomplishments you had. There will be nothing that's not animal systems for you in this part. What's your area? Diversified horticulture. All right. That's going to be plant systems. All right. So everything is plant systems. Plant systems, plant systems, plant systems. But there is a place then below that called supporting items right here, because you do things other than plants in your operations, don't you? You have to get some business skills, some time management, and maybe fix something, some mechanical skills. This is your chance to tell them what other skills you have that are not in plant systems, animal systems, or whatever. So you can talk about how you use your welding skills to fix your trailer to blah, 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 blah. And then you didn't have to hire someone to do that, and now look at the money you save. Okay? So supporting and primary are two different things, and make sure you kind of understand the difference of that. Yeah.
If you have a diversified student or a star student, how do you make that call or that decision on what like primary?
That is a good question. It's been a while since I had one of those. In fact,
So you're talking like diversified ag, where you would have crops and livestock?
Correct.
Mindy, do you know the answer to that right off?
I do not, but I can find out.
Because I don't think it will let you pick more than one.
I don't think so either.
So if I've got a student that's got raises cattle, well, the farm crop. So it's got corn and soybeans. It's got a herd of cattle and soybeans.
My initial response to that would be, what's the bigger part of it, and where is the passion for that project, and where's the most accomplishment, and make that the primary, and then, let's say it's on the crop side, which plant systems, and then put some animal systems. But that might be
on the application, like my kid was in environmental and natural resource management, so like on the primary pathway, it literally both those options are choose here. And it says on here, just even if you're at the same multiple pathways, choose the one that fits best.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for looking that up. So I think the one that is the biggest component for what drives their passion for that project. But now to say though, let's say these are the supporting ones. That's not to say that you might have to pick a business one, for some managerial skill or something too. Which I kind of like to have a mix of things on that supporting one. So you might have a couple animal ones, a business one, and maybe power and technical systems. Riley.
So if they use that, of course, that primary pathway, they may still have more to add underneath that primary pathway. Can they use that under supporting, or would it be advised?
I would not. And we got talking here. I've got another little thing here, so let's keep going. You cannot be too specific in this part. This is where you have got to tell your story about how your management skill that you had saved you $9.47 per chicken, or whatever it is that you're doing. That you reduced your time spent per horse by 12% because you implemented this wonderful new idea or thing that you did. Or you increased your whole crop by 4% because you did some vaccination program or whatever. But percent, dollars, cents, etc. Be specific, numeric, measurable things. Details. This page, oh my gosh. We, with Carol last year, we spent hours and hours and hours and hours trying to get to the bottom of this cattery that she works at, and how much for kitten this, and how many cold cats that, and this and that and the other thing. It'll drive you crazy, but it'll be so worth it if you do a good job on this page, because you're going to score well if they look at that and they see all sorts of measurable things that tell how you made an improvement or a change in your program. Up in the skill part, if you can, I would recommend to use a given skill only once. But you might have a special circumstance. Let's say that you had a, let's say that you were a, I don't know, whatever, what's your SAE area? Okay, as mechanic. So maybe it's something about, I don't even know what they are in power and technical systems, but let's say there's something with safety, okay? And you talk about, maybe you went through some intensive training and blah, 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 blah. And so you pick the safety one and you tell about all this intensive training that you did in the program that you're now certified in and so on. But maybe you have employees and you reduced accidents by 5%. Maybe you had a C in the past and you wanted to tell that story. You could choose safety again, the same particular skill, but go in a completely different direction with it. But don't try and, you know, choose the same one and expand on it in the next. They should be separate, completely separate entities. Your chance to tell more parts of your SAE. So if you can, use a certain skill only once, but if you need to use it more than once, make sure you're going in a completely different direction and telling something else very critical to your program. Does that make sense? I also would recommend not using time management as a challenge or organizational skill. A lot of these students, I know that's a big thing for you to learn and it's a challenge, but it's not unique. So put on your thinking caps and see if you can't come up with something else. My kids usually put that in there and that's where I get out my big pen and go, oh, let's do something else here, and I scribble it out and go back to work on that one. So unless there is some really unique part of your program that made time management or some organization very different from the average student in that area. If you have really extenuating circumstances, maybe so. Otherwise, move on to something else. Okay, skills, competencies, and knowledge. Again, I put this up here. I know that, look how cool this is. And let's look at some of the skills that this student used. This is a craft kid. So he put on 101 pounds of potash, 152 of DAP, 89 of 28, and these pounds in his wheat, and he used DRT in 1 week. That's also measurable. 32 was sprayed at 152 pounds, and golly, back in 2015, we had 130 pounds of blah, 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 all using variable rate technology, which is an abbreviation, but look, here we spelled it out earlier, so it's okay then to see VRT. And then we must have some picture or something about it on our personal page, so see personal page number 4. So we got all kinds of measurable things contributed to their fertilizer plan, and we have some picture or some such thing. I think he had a map. It must have been a CRT map or something I think he had in there. All right? So that's kind of how you want to tackle these skills. Is pick your thing. This is plant systems. He's going to harvest, handle, and store crops. He talks about his moisture, what he harvested at, what was ideal, and what he harvested at. And then, oh, look, I sold my corn out of the field to avoid paying 23 cents per bushel for delayed pricing. Specific. It's not about 20 cents, not about 25 cents, exactly 23 cents. And so then he allowed a 6-cent gain by this marketing maneuver thing that we did. So, oh, look, I made these decisions, and look how it paid off for me. That's kind of what you want to do. Right? All right. Here's another one. This is an environmental person. So she was competing in environmental sciences, national finalist on that. And so here she's talking about soil science principles, and she's losing 67% of nitrogen. We've got some specifics about rainfall and such here, what the Illinois average is, and 2015 was a mess because we had 36.44. Get your data, put the numbers in there, and you see how this works. Yeah, so be very specific. Oh, look, here's another one. See photo on page 19. That must be talking about her NWatch levels. okay? So, and even looking here, this one, we debated parts per million. That's kind of an accepted abbreviation of ppm, but just in case they were having a little bit of a struggle, we have enough space. We did put that and then the abbreviation. So, okay. All right. The supporting skills then, we talked about those already. Those are outside of your main pathway. So this student, okay, this is my ag sales poultry kid. The ag sales and the poultry kid are the same one. But anyway, so he had his business things as his, bless you, as his main pathway. And so now he has a food processing, an ag business, several ag business ones. Maybe this was his poultry one. Yeah, animal systems. So food, ag business, and I don't see the rest of them. But anyway, there we got some diversity. He probably should have been even more diverse because there's 4 ag businesses there. Would have been nice to maybe put something a little different in there. So again, those skills are outside. And here's it. So now, for those of you who are in placement, we have some of you in here. I'm talking to you a little bit when you're talking about your experiences. When you're putting your experiences in for the different years, put them in the same order so that the judges can say, oh, you, I don't know, harvested apples. And then another experience was maybe you harvested grapes. And the next one was you sprayed insecticide. And if you did that all your years, don't start with spray insecticide the next year and then have us find the apples. Put them in the same order each year so that the judges can quickly look down and go, okay, they did this all these years. Look, they only did 5 apple trees here, and now they've got 7 acres of apples. So that you kind of follow along. Anything to just kind of make it flow more easily. All right, let's see. I'm about ready to get up and move around here before too long. Let's see. Also, on your placement people, your skills page, that skill impact scenario you can use there too. So here's my skill. Here's how it impacted my SAE. Again, specific, measurable, not anything that I didn't tell you before. Now, let's talk to you entrepreneurial people a little bit here, because you have to do some income and expense summary. So if you have recently done your state degree, kind of think state degree application here, and how you had to make those dollars all work out and get the assets in the right categories. Again, I'm only talking to entrepreneurial candidates right now. A lot of entrepreneurs, because they're busy people, you have more than one kind of SAE. So if you have, let's say you're diversified horticulture, right? Let's say that you were competing only in, I don't know, one area of whatever your SAE is. You would have to go through there and figure out, I don't know, let's say, what are some components to your project? Okay, so let's say that you were competing in landscaping instead. You would have to go through and isolate your landscaping assets and your landscaping income and your landscaping expenses and segregate that from your lawn care if you were in that area, because it's only the SAE that you're competing in. Now, since you're diversified, that's easy to lump it all together. So let's say you got sheep or something on the side and they're not mowing the lawn for you, okay? Then you have to exclude all those things. Okay? So make sure that you are only using the things in the SAE. Also for entrepreneurs, some money stuff. We got to get our assets in the right categories. We absolutely want to do that. So assets, remember, are the things that you own that have value. And they're either going to be a current asset, something that you could readily convert to cash within 1 year, and we've got some examples here. So maybe you've got a bag of grass seed, or if you're a crops person, you got corn or bean seed, frozen chicken breast, market animals of any kind go there. You got steers, you got weather, whatever. C, don't forget your fuel. If you're a person who has equipment and you have a tank of fuel there, at the end of the year you go out and say, yep, I got 47 gallons of diesel left in that tank, and you put it at your end of the year inventory. And that is a current asset. Okay, so don't forget things. Now, non-current, those are things that are going to be held for longer than a year and take longer than that to convert into cash. So those would be any kind of breeding animals. So if you have cows, mares, if you're in the breeding part of your horses. Equipment, there's a lawnmower, horse trailer, tractor, cattle chute, freezers. My poultry egg sales kid has huge freezers for their frozen poultry stuff. Buildings, real estate, that sort of stuff. So make sure that you get it in the right area because that is going to be a huge problem on scoring rubric if those are not in the correct spot. So let's see if we can figure this out. So I have a purebred German Shepherd breeding female. Where does she go? Current or non-current? She's non-current, and she's a breeding animal. What if I have 5 quarts of oil? Current, good. How about 5 pounds of gerbil food? Current. What about my tractor? Non-current. A pig whip. Okay, are you itemizing it or are you putting off? I'm still going to itemize it, but I'm going to lose it next year and it only costs me $9. I'm going to put it in current. Walk-in meat cooler, non-current. 10 dozen daisies, current, yeah. If you can get them to last more than a year, you really should add that process. All right, so you get the idea, right? Make sure you get your stuff in the right categories. And then further for you entrepreneurs, if you are buying breeding animals, they must be depreciated. Okay, one of the first things that we did at National Judging was they had their financial guy talk to us who hit on this point again, that if you buy any kind of breeding animal, they got to be depreciated. Okay, fine. So breeding livestock is depreciable. And we even had a student who was raising cockroaches, and this might be a real extreme here, but there was, I think it was specialty animal, and they bought some new female cockroaches for their breeding program in the enterprise, and they did not put them down as depreciable livestock, and they actually penalized that student because they did not depreciate their breeding female cockroaches. So that's a really extreme example, but make sure that if you're buying breeding stock, it's depreciable. A little cockroach. And appreciating. You can't just go, well, my good cow, I bought her for $4,000, but man, she's really gotten a lot better, and I sold one of her calves that did really well in Denver, so yeah, she's worth $8,000 now. I'll just jack that up in my record. Can't do that. All right, that is not going to work financially, and that is going to be a huge no-no in terms of scoring at National. I'm not even sure that you can get your application to balance and say met, even if you do stuff like that. All right, nearly to the end of the entrepreneurial people, but we got to get this money stuff straightened out. Depreciation. So yeah, your tax man may have you on some accelerated cost recovery system for tax purposes. We use straight line depreciation in our record book. So how many years is the asset going to last? How was it work? If you need help specifically with that, I can walk you through that at the end of the application or the workshop here. But the depreciation line on your application should be negative because your assets went down in value due to wear and tear, time, being old, out of date, et cetera, et cetera. So now, if you share your business with, let's say you've got a sibling, they own 50% and you own 50%, you will want to just put in your share. So this was a student who had a sibling that also owned 50% of the beef project, it looks like, or some, no, there was pigs too. The pigs were shared with the siblings. So this student only put in their half. They have buckets and feed pans and miscellaneous stuff. They must have $250 worth, but 50% of that was the siblings. So they put in $125. Now, as I remember the student, the beef was all his, and so his AI kit, there's no specification that it's any percent and the whole value goes here. So you'll put, if you're sharing, if you've got a partnership of some kind, identify what the share is and put only your share there. Okay? Oh, a non-current depreciable inventory page. You're going to need this column to match up to what you have put in your other pages in your application. So the way the math works on this is column A, the acquisition cost, minus the depreciation claimed so far equals the current balance. You can kind of work backwards a little bit if you need to, but this is the number that needs to match stuff in your book. So if this depreciation needs to be $145 to make that match. We had a couple years of rounding in the record book, and so it's carried in as 43, but now it doesn't match. So, you know, this is the important number, and if there was rounding over the years, it might not quite match. So you can fix that in column B. Okay? So get that to match. Okay. Now, it's time for us all to get up and move around a little bit. Yay. So, we're going to play a little game here. And we're going to get up and move around, and I have two sets of pictures. I have one set back here, and there's number 7 behind the first step in here. And then there's another identical set, 1 through 6 at least, is over here. And then number 7 is over here. So we'll divide up, and maybe this half of the room can kind of come to the front, and this half can use the back pictures. And I want you to look at them, and I want you to figure out what's wrong with those pictures, like why we would not want to submit those with our national application. And then as you're roaming around, also, when it clears out up here, or at the end, you're welcome to come touch and feel. But I have 3 different papers up here, and we're going to talk about what to print your application on and that sort of thing. So I have some regular paper, I have some thick, heavy paper, and I have photo paper, so you can look and touch and feel. So I'm going to give you about 6 minutes, and if you need a restroom break, you can scurry out and do that too. So we'll meet back up at 20 after with our feedback on these pictures. Go. Oh, show that. It's good to practice.
My mom and my kids are going to come on Wednesday for my dad's dinner. So should I just get them passes with mine or just
Yeah, just do a one-day guest pass. Yeah, and I put it down. Yes, when your dad sent in his RSVP, he wrote something about, can my wife come too? And I was like, of course. And I just haven't responded to him because I don't get, like, all the RSVP cards go to Haley and she processes them. Yep. Okay. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you would not have to. Yep, definitely. No.
Another minute or so. All right, let's see how good your powers of observation were. So this is picture number 1, and the student will say, and so we can kind of see if they're the driver. That would be the first thing we'd want to change. But they're competing in fiber and oil crop, and so that is the picture that the candidate put in their national application. What's the problem here? Right. Corn is in grain production, everyone, and this is fiber and oil. And so that would be a huge no-no. In fact, so much so that the year that I judged at National in the summer judging, we had an outstanding application, which I believe was in fiber and oil, and they had a picture of harvesting corn. And so we were directed to penalize them in the scoring appropriately, which we did. If it wasn't that, then he was harvesting beans and he was in the grain. Anyway, you get the idea. And so it was such an outstanding application that that student scored to be a national finalist. But when it went to the review table, they said, oh, no, that can't happen. That's not going to work. And so our alternate got moved up to be a national finalist. Something so simple as, you know, you get the picture and the lighting is beautiful and like, oh, you get all wrapped up in it. Just be careful. It's got to show your project, and the student was competing, not with corn. Okay, here was number 2. This is Tara, the young lady who greeted you at the beginning, National Proficiency winner in small animal. We had this picture all geared up to use, and I came to a screeching halt on this one. Why? Right, my goodness gracious. She's in sanitizing solution. There's not a glove. There's no goggles. Good gravy, we can't use that. That would be a mess. So, right, we obviously shot that picture. Okay, this student is competing in veterinary science, and they work at the veterinary clinic and do some kennel work and so on. What's wrong here? They're not in the photo. The student's not in the photo. You could use a Google image. Good, for all we know. So, yes, you have to be in the picture. And we have to be able to tell it to you and so on. Okay, This is a young man whose application, some of the crop stuff that I showed you was probably some of his. He was a national finalist a year ago. He did not have the great idea to try and use this in his national application, but I put it in here anyway. Is he had what's wrong with this? He's not doing anything. It's just in your picture for people. All right? We don't need a pretty picture of the student. We need to use the picture to tell us the story of some meaningful thing that they're doing with their SAE. All right? That you're involved, that you're doing approved practices with the SAE. Leaning there in official dress is not one of them. Okay. This FFA member is, oh, golly, well, is competing, not is competing, but anyway, or is competing. Anyway, she's competing in specialty animal production. What's the problem here? Well, it's just dogs are small animals. Yeah, small animal production and care, wrong area. Okay? Otherwise, it's a glorious picture. Aside from the typo, and again, let's see, read your captions carefully too, because if you have typos like I did, that's not a good thing. All right. Okay. Oh boy. It drives me crazy, and I've mentioned it at least 3 times already today. So then a student of deep entrepreneurship, assume that you can see the driver who is the proficiency candidate. What's the problem here? There's nothing to read. It's a forage picture. It's not specific to beef, but beef eat hay, and I make hay for my cattle. Can I put that in there? No. No, don't do that. Terrible idea. Terrible idea. We've gone round and round, a few of us, about that, and if you insist upon putting that in there, it's probably going to hurt your chances of being a national finalist. Period. That's just my personal opinion on it, and these might be different. But if you're in beef, don't show me that. You can talk about maybe how you save money on your feed costs by baling your own hay. You save, I don't know, $4.12 a month per head, or I don't know, figure that out. But don't show me, use one of your pictures for that, crying out loud. Now this one, the question asked what's right about this picture. Same because it was leaning against the tractor tire in his official dress, by the way. He's doing something. Okay, he's doing something that has to do with his project. He was competing in first by crop, as it says there. I'm sorry? He's an FFA hero. Oh, yes, FFA hero. That's always nice. Yeah, my students want to slap me by the time we're done taking pictures because and you can even see it, it might even be a little excessive, but I would have marched up to him, and I did. This was a Sunday morning. We shot these pictures. And I took hold of his shirt and pulled it down and stretched it out so the FFA wasn't wrinkled or rumpled or anything like that. It showed so nice. And, those students, they'll put up with it. My own 2 kids, the biggest fight I ever had with my daughter her entire life was when we were taking pictures for our national proficiency application. She wanted to kill me. But anyway, yeah, he's got an FFA shirt on. He's working with the project that he's competing in. He's got his pocket knife out there, and he's digging around, going to do a population check. I think that's what the caption talks about. Not to mention that I got lucky in lighting. It's glorious. It's nice and clear, and it's not blurry, and it shows his equipment and, what's not to like.
And to note on that FFA apparel, they're not going to disqualify you or take points away from that, but they are going to recognize that. If you've ever been to the National Convention and you see them recognize the stars, if you ever see a star video without a star candidate without an FFA shirt on? The answer to that question is no. And some of those star candidates don't have those clothes until the day they do that filming.
Right. They provide the FFA shirt that they want the stars to wear in those videos. When the professional videographer comes out, you have already received the apparel that you are to wear from National. So, yeah.
So it is noticed. It's not a disqualifying thing, but it is noticed. So if you're going to take fresh pictures, make a conscious effort to do that.
Yes. Oh, yes. So when you go out and do that, I have to tell my students to have 4 or 5 different shirts, and they're going to 5 pictures in the same shirt for Pete's sake. Okay. And I will say that Tara Hummel is competing in goat proficiency this year. We have an absolutely magnificent picture of her doing some artificial insemination with the goats and such, and she doesn't have FFA apparel on. Well, she works with a guy from, I don't know, Argentina or somewhere on that. We obviously are not going to stage that and reshoot it. We'll use that picture because that's an important component of the project. But if you're taking new pictures, like this is one of the last set, dig out the FFA gear. Okay. So, a few photography pointers. So make sure that it's directly related to your SAE. So if you're in crop, show the crop picture, not just mechanical. So yeah, I know things break when you're doing in your lawn care business or whatever, your mower breaks, right? But don't show me a bunch of welding pictures. Make sure that we're showing all of that. So stay specific to the project. Safety requirements, we already talked about that. Don't wear shorts when you're in the shop. We already talked about Kara's little near snafu with her cat dip stuff. And we already mentioned, too, you need to be in the picture with the project. I guess it goes without saying to, you know, make sure you've got good lighting and that it's not blurry and dark and all those kinds of things as well. And we already talked about FFA appearance. Do we have any questions about the photos themselves?
How many are you allowed?
6. Mm-hmm. Now let's talk about the captions for those photos. So if we had, let me just go back here real quick. Go back, maybe. Well, there we go. Let's just zip back here to our friend with the dog. What if that young lady wrote a photo caption, Goldie and I here I am with Goldie, the dog I'm training to be a service project. She is a golden retriever, whatever, and I love her very much. Okay. Well, think of that as a judge. Does that really tell you much? No. The most meaningful thing she put in there is she's training this dog to be a service animal. What if she had said, Goldie and I have logged over 957 hours while training to be a service animal. My duties with her include training her to whatever they do, service animals, and we are 98% complete with our task before she goes into service. Well, now, there's a caption. You see the difference. So don't say this is beefy and this is fluffy. We can clearly see that, okay? Tell us the nuts and bolts, the management, the work you put into that. If you go to this picture here, he talks about checking population of the seed and what he wanted his planting population to be and what he expected his emerging population to be, and I don't know what all is here. But anyway, lots of dollars and figures and stuff, okay? So, use the space, not one sentence of here I am with Fluffy. They give you a specific amount of space. Use it to tell your story. Again, specific, detailed, etc. And don't duplicate anything. In fact, this is true throughout your entire application. If you already said that, let's say we go back to the service dog thing, if you already said somewhere that you and Goldie logged 972 hours or whatever it was I said, then tell me something else about it in the caption. Don't say it again. The judges are not stupid. It's not like they're going to miss it. You got to keep hammering it into their head. You need to give them as many different components and facets and things about your project. All right? So don't duplicate. Just don't. Unless, of course, you don't know that. Maybe, you know, maybe you have a really developing young project that you don't have that much. Well, maybe you will have to tell the story a couple different ways, but put a different twist on it, word it differently, take a different angle. Okay? But clearly, you guys intend to be competitive, and so that's how we got take. So here's an example. This is kind of an old one, as you can tell. But anyway, he's got a picture of him here with his veterinarian, and he talks about using this ultrasound technology at 27 or more days during the span of 55 to 90 days. He can do gender identification. He's had 100% accuracy. It helps him identify 3 sets of twins, and that helps him adjust weaning times and feed rations to better manage the cow herd. So their specifics about how that played into the success of their program, just in the photo caption. So, okay, I get a lot of people contacting me about personal pages because that's kind of you get to do kind of whatever you want on that. So this is your chance to tell more about your story, not rehash the same old stuff that you told them. So no duplication, tell more of your story, make it pretty and attractive. I've got a couple examples that I'm going to pop up here. And then because I was struggling with the copy machine last night, I accidentally printed my entire presentation, not just the photo pages. So I have these two personal pages printed in color. I have 2 copies of them. So we'll have a set back here when we're done, and you can browse and look at them. And we've got another set up here by Mrs. Bunselmeyer that you can grab and look at. And then I also have, before I forget, I have a few copies of each of the 4 rubrics. So if you need a copy and you're like, I want to look at this thing today, I've got those as well. All right, so the personal page. This one is my daughter's, so I can use that. So ideas for personal pages, you could do a collage of photos that are labeled with a job or the task or whatever you're doing. You could do certifications or data. So let's pick hers apart up in the top. She was PQA certified. So that's a copy of her PQA certification card, and she talks about how that's important to the management of her project. Her middle one is a news clipping about Superior Young Producer and some success showing. You livestock people. Our students always love to put their beautiful animals on exhibit in the show ring as pictures. And one of those would be okay, but don't use 3 or 4 of those. You know, you got your heifer at Denver and your heifer at State Fair and your heifer at Beef Expo. They get the idea that you show. They don't really care so much about that. They want to know the management that you put into your beef herd. So have a picture of you processing a baby calf, or AIing a cow, or feeding them, and talk about livestock people. Be careful about that. Amy had a validated herd for brucellosis. That's a disease sort of thing, and went through certification of that, so she talks about that. And then down here at the bottom in this easy-winky print that you can't read is a cut sheet from the meat packer about how those pigs cut out, how much fat did they have, what was their loin-eye size, et cetera, and then talk about how that would impact your premium dollars and cents into your program. I also have, this was Tara's from last year with small animals. So we did a couple different things here. We had some more pictures that we didn't use in the application, but we felt maybe it was important to tell the story. So we talked about the feeding program because we hadn't talked about feeding yet in the program. And so that top picture up there is her feeding some of those exotic cats and talking about the percent proteins and what they eat and how much they eat. And then we also wanted to talk about the birthing and how they have technology of cameras there with the queens that are getting ready to give birth to these kittens, and how Tara can monitor that on her phone and her laptop and whatever, and so that we chose to use those two. Then we also have an image, a screenshot of their website, of that place of business that she works for, and look, there she is as an employee. Don't just put the website up there without the kid on it, of course, and talks about their website and how it helps their clients find their business and so on and so forth. And then we chose to use some documents for transport on international flights, these cats and such, the paperwork that they have to fill out, because that's something different that other candidates won't have. So anything that you have that either A, you want to tell the story and you haven't had a chance to yet, or something unique or different or help substantiate, those are some ideas that you can use for personal things. Right? And again, there are no real rules on that other than it has to fit on one page. So use it to your advantage to tell more of the story that has not already been covered. Okay, a few random things as we wrap up here. Always use professional language, never stuff and, you know, those kinds of slang words. It's nearly impossible to mess this up now, but I do need to mention this. At the bottom is a version number. So if you print your application, it's going to have a unique version number at the bottom. If you have a oopsie and you reprint it, you must substitute the entire application, the new application. You can't say, oh, I'm going to save a tree here and just print the first page. It's going to have a different version number on it, and this is not somewhere you can mix and match. You've got to have the same version number. Absolutely you must. They will throw you out if you do not. The picture pages do not have version numbers, so you can print your pictures and reprint just your application. So, but watch that. A couple other random things then. I've preached this and you're probably sick of hearing it, but be as specific as you possibly can. Include measurable items in every situation that you can. Don't duplicate anything. Use the space to tell as many different parts of your project as you can. Remember, you're only talking about what's included in this particular FAQ area that you are competing with. Don't muddy the waters and tell me about something else that you do that has nothing to do with this project. Maybe even it does have to do with this project. Like your horse is hay, but don't tell me about making hay. All right? A couple things for advisors or students to make sure that your advisor is aware of. You're probably going to have an advisor recommendation written. So your advisors, as you're writing them, this is not where we're to be specific and include measurable things. Your student is supposed to do that. You talk about how you've seen the students grow and develop their projects and things like that. The candidate knows the project document. You say they started out with 12 cows, and in their application they said they started out with 4 cows. Well, what is it? Now, as a judge, they're like, wow, what's going on here? So, advisors, let's not put a bunch of specific measurable stuff in there. Let the student do that. As far as finishing touches go, use some nice, puffy white paper for the application pages. And if you haven't had a chance to come up here and touch and feel and look at the sticky notes, you can do that when we're done. But basically, I just have regular copy paper that is thin and just kind of bland. And then I just took a picture of and pulled a sheet out of our ream of paper that we keep at TriPoint. This happens to be 28 pound and 97 brightness. It's a little heavier, but it's not like cardstock. Don't do like cardstock. It's too hard for the judges to page through everything. So we use this for all the application pages except your pictures. And because our personal pages are very picture-oriented, we use photo paper for our personal page also. So don't do the whole thing, like I said, on cardstock, or don't do like gray, or, oh, I'll set it aside, put it on ivory resume. No. Just put it on a nice heavy-duty white paper, and put your pictures, if you want, on heavy-duty white paper or photo paper, and send it in. It's more about the quality of what you say than trying to be all fussy about your special paper and your pictures and that sort of thing. Don't forget to look for your resources at FFA.org. We've talked about the rubrics, and they also have on there, in addition to that, they will also have the handbook. There we go. So when you go to FFA.org, then you would choose awards and competitive events and choose proficiency awards. And then that will take you to all kinds of resources. There's a handbook. This is the table of contents on a handbook. It tells you everything you ever wanted to know about proficiency awards and filling out the application. So, like I said, they're very transparent, and I had to kind of cut this off at the bottom almost. but they have little special tips and hints and things in there too. Use them. So if you've not looked at the handbook, do that. So we probably ought to talk a little bit about hours. Some of you are really busy, all right? Like you're working your fingers to the bone on these projects, okay? There's a point in time where your hard work is too many hours. So I have this in here, and you can look at this when you have the screen in front of you. But basically what they're doing is they're saying 365 days a year at 24 hours, and they figure out how many hours are in a year. And then they subtract out, well, you got to sleep, and you got to go to school, and you got to go on vacation, and then there's Christmas and all that kind of stuff. And you need to do a few things with your family and do your homework. And so that only leaves so many hours. And so once you exceed their magic number of hours, you have to explain in the application why it is that you have 2,500 hours in a year on your application, because it becomes unrealistic in their mind. So you either have to get your hours pared down or have a darn good explanation. Maybe you do a work study, you know, and so you only go to school half a day and you work with your SAE, you know, from noon to 8 p.m. every day. Okay, fine. Explain that.
But I even question those hours on an American application. So an American application can be rejected if the hours are too much. And you can provide an explanation, but if they don't buy the explanation, they can still reject it if it goes beyond that number.
So, moral of that story is it's probably safer to make sure your hours are within their little parameters, which are on this page. And this, too, is within those resources with proficiency stuff. Okay, so do be careful of that. So, as we're wrapping up today, if you have any questions, of course, the queen of all questions about Illinois FFA is in the room up here. And so Mrs. Meyer, I'm sure you know how to reach her at the State FFA office. And if you have any questions that you would like my input on, there is my contact info. That is my cell phone. Feel free to text me, call me, whatever you need, or send me an email. So, we would wish you the very best of luck as you compete at National. And do we have any questions for the group?
I've got two. If the kid has a business card, is that better on a personal page? If they want, like, if they made their own business card, they have business cards or not?
Depends on what other options you have. And if it's a nice business card and they've covered everything else in their application pretty well, and they want to say, yeah, here's my business, yeah. I've had students use business cards before.
Okay, and then my next is if you have, like, maybe a before and then an after picture where you're talking about what you're doing in your project and you're comparing that you've done this, can you make like a slide of before and after picture as one of your pictures?
I would put that on my personal page rather than using
not on the photo page.
No, any photo is a
one photo,
yeah.
right.
And you have to, there's an upload mechanism, and you can only upload one picture. So if you went to go put the second one up there, it would throw that one out. And if you like Photoshop them together and things, I think that's a bad idea. Okay. I would put it on, but it's not a bad idea. It's just a bad idea on the photo page. Okay. So I would add that to the personal page. That'd be a splendid place for something like that.
Someone asked that in the electronic, and I had typed that to everyone on the webinar that, yes, it's only one photo allowed on the photo page.
Great question. What other questions do we have? All right. Well, again, I'm excited that so many of you are here trying to make your application as strong as possible, and I look forward to seeing you all hike across the stage at state convention as state winners, and I hope I can see you on stage as a national finalist as well. So if you have any individual questions, I'm around. Also, the printout of the personal pages if you want to look, and the rubrics I have sorted by time will be answered.
Diana, I forward your PowerPoint to everyone. Could you take the sharing settings to you? No, that's okay.
Yeah, Riley, what
Did you forward that to Maya?
I did. Okay. And well, but Claire's leaving. Yeah.
Yeah, she just wrote her thing, too. So she left.
Got it.
we had an SSA night, like a bonfire night, and we had this big ball, like they're blow-up balls that you run into each other with, and she was playing with us, and she felt ill. I got a text today about it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I had no idea.
You told the Wyatt story too.
Yeah, probably. We're gonna fix that. Clear and renew.
What we put in
We did it again.
I'm not worded the same way that you were. You're welcome.
I was like, oh, still looking. Still.
I know. I didn't know something.
Honestly,
It's like a level.